Hey everyone, welcome to October. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, and we're going to be going over your October forecast week by week, showing you your temperature trends, your precipitation trends, the drought monitor for the month, and much more in this forecast. So make sure to subscribe to the channel down below and also like the video down below. It helps out more than you know. Also leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those after the video. So let's look currently at the sea surface temperature anomaly, and let's update you on the latest with La Nina trying to develop here in the equatorial Pacific. You see these blue blobs out here into the equatorial Pacific. Those blue blobs have become a little bit more numerous. Those are colder sea surface temperatures. The orange and red blobs are warmer sea surface temperatures, and the more blue blobs we see down here, the more likely La Nina conditions are going to develop. And you can see the latest index has us at negative 0.7. And once you get below -1, that's where we start to see La Nina conditions develop, at least weak La Nina conditions. 0 is ENSO neutral, all the way down to -1, and then from 0 all the way up to +1, we're still in neutral, and then once you get to +1 or higher, that would be El Nino. So you can clearly see we're still in neutral conditions, and we're going to continue to remain there until we get this number to drop below -1, and then we'll introduce those weak La Nina conditions. Let's look at the U.S. drought monitor, because this is very impressive. It's been a while since we've seen drought in almost all 50 states here, at least in some form of drought, whether that's a minor drought, a moderate drought, a severe drought, even an exceptional drought in some areas. So we need a lot of moisture across the United States, and unfortunately going forward through the month of October, the 31 days we have here, the Great Plains is the area that looks like the drought will begin to expand and intensify as we go throughout the month of October. Yes, looking at the southeast, we are seeing good news that the drought is going to start to alleviate across those areas, and we're still seeing drought remaining across portions of the Pacific Northwest that will continue over the next month here. So let's look at the week-by-week basis of your temperature trends. October 1st through October 8th, you can see we have low pressure. Low pressure is depicted on the blue on the screen. Higher pressure is the orange, and you can see the low pressure storm track up here to the Gulf of Alaska, into Western Canada, and even central and northern Canada. And then you have that high pressure, very strong high pressure down here in the desert Southwest. That's what's been leading to a lot of those record high temperatures here in late September. But now we're going into early October, and that continues. So the Sacramento Valley in California, the desert Southwest, really going to be baking in that heat through the first week of October. Some of that above normal temperature trends will continue across the central U.S. and up into southeastern Canada. A little bit of some cooler air, though, for Northwest Territories down into British Columbia and even parts of Alberta, Canada, through the first week of October. Precipitation trends with the active storm track a little bit further to the north. That's where we're going to see most of the precipitation, especially the western coastlines of Canada. So if you live in western British Columbia up here in toward the Gulf of Alaska, a lot of precipitation on the way through the first week of October. Some of that will spread further to the east into Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and even further north from that into northern Canada. Pretty dry underneath that with the high pressure across the central and eastern U.S., and we have that stronger high over here, of course, in the desert Southwest, so pretty dry. We are watching a tropical system down here into the Gulf of Mexico. That could spread some tropical moisture closer to the Gulf Coast and Florida as we go through the later portion of this upcoming week, so something to keep an eye on there. Going into the second week of October, October 8th through October 15th, high pressure begins to migrate a little bit further off to the east-northeast into the central U.S. as we go into the second week here, and we're starting to see a little bit of that storm track lifting even further north toward the Gulf of Alaska as we go into October. So what does that mean for temperatures? Well, it's going to be pretty mild, unseasonably warm for most of southern Canada and the central U.S. as we go into the second week of the month. A little bit more normal, though, across the eastern seaboard down into the southeast, and that has to do with the tropics. Again, going into the second week of October, we're watching tropical activity down near the Gulf Coast into Florida, so that could spread some moisture there. Naturally, when you have cloud cover, you have precipitation. That will keep your temperatures closer to normal. Where we're drier, unseasonable warmth is going to continue into the second week of October. And even unseasonable warmth this time of year could just mean 60s and 70s, but that's still unseasonably warm given the fact that we're into the second week of October, and then some active weather up toward the Gulf of Alaska, still western Canada through that week as well. Now going into the second half of the month, October 15th through the 22nd, and namely the third week of the month, and you can see the high pressure starts to build further north across the west, even into western Canada, and we start to see low pressure developing more into the northeast U.S. and southeastern Canada into the second half of the month here. That may cool us off a little bit. Across the eastern U.S., we could have some cooler shots here of air from Canada down into the eastern U.S. That could bring us below normal, still trending above normal across the central and western U.S. And there could also be some cooler air where we have some precipitation near the Gulf of Alaska down here into western Canada, but just maybe not as potent as what we have seen lately. And you can see the drier weather will continue across the central and eastern U.S. as we go into the third week of October. And that's why we showed you that drought monitor, because the drought's going to expand across the Great Plains. We see a lot of browns here. That means below normal precipitation through the first, the second, now the third week of October. And then now looking at the last full week or so of October, the last 7, 8, 9 days, that zonal flow looks to become established across North America, and that could actually lead to, again, the central and eastern U.S. starting to warm up, unseasonably warm. Our average highs this time of year as we get closer to Halloween are lowering, so even unseasonable warmth, again, could be just 60s and 70s. And then across the west, we're seeing normal temperatures out there, some slightly cooler shots of air across the western Canadian provinces up toward the Gulf of Alaska again. That is something to watch out for. That could bring some frost into some of those areas as we go later into October. Precipitation trends right now, not really any which way really. We're looking at normal precipitation all across the North America regime here as we go in towards the last 7, 8, 9 days of the month. Maybe slightly above normal with precipitation in Alaska into British Columbia here, and maybe a little bit in the southern plains of the United States, and then over here into eastern Quebec. Other than that, we're looking to dry out maybe across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast into the last week here of October. Here's the official forecast from the experts over there at the Climate Prediction Center for October 2024, and it goes along with the forecast we've been showing you all along. Above normal temperatures are expected across the west, including the west coast, the Rockies, and parts of the plains as we go through October. Some of that spreading into the upper Midwest and the Northeast. Equal chances of above or below normal temperatures across the Southeast as we go through the month. That's averaging all 31 days out. And same thing with the precipitation. When you average all 31 days out here, we're looking at below normal precipitation across a good chunk of the United States, and that is especially across the Great Plains. That's why the monthly drought monitor is the way it is, with drought likely expanding and intensifying across the central U.S., where the tropics will be active. We're not worrying about drought too much in Florida, as we've had a lot of rainfall from tropical systems already, especially with recent Helene, and then we're already seeing more above average precipitation down here in the Sunshine State as we go into October. Speaking of the tropics, looking here into October, we're entering into early October now, and we're starting to get a little bit closer toward the end of the hurricane season. It is by no means over, but you can see through the month of October, named storms are more likely to form in the Western Caribbean, Eastern Gulf, and up here toward Florida. That's where we do have those above normal precipitation anomalies over here. So that is something to watch as we go through October. Eastern Pacific still pretty busy here into early October as well, and that can continue. We could still have those named storms developing just off the coast of Mexico and just to the south of the Baja of California, and those will curve out to sea towards Hawaii potentially as we go through the month of October. So stick with me here with the latest weather information, short range forecasts, long range forecasts, seasonal outlooks. We'll have it all for you here on the channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below for all of that. Turn on all post notifications. All you got to do for that is click the bell icon and turn that on. Like the video by giving it a thumbs up down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll always get to those after my videos, and I hope everyone has a terrific October out there.